Here's one of the biggest mistakes that most beekeepers make, in my opinion. One of the biggest mistakes I see beekeepers make, whether you're new or you've been doing this for some time now, is that when they're planning their season with their bees, they go off of calendar dates instead of flowering dates. Let me explain. Here are my calendars from the last 3 years. You can see 21, 22, and 23, where I started keeping records in 21. Start writing down when the first date that I start to see things starting to bloom and when the bees start bringing things in. For the month of April, it was on the 5th, I saw hazel pollen, forsythia was blooming, and silver maple was blooming. So I can assume that the bees are bringing in those. This one was dandelion. So this was a little bit of a warmer year. So the dandelions started blooming that 3rd week of April, which is a huge deal, and I'll explain why in a second. All right, so we see this was May of 22, and I wrote down first dandelions were the 7th of May, or the first week of May. Now that I have a rough idea of when things are blooming, I can kind of put 2 and 2 together and see that, you know, silver maple will flower 2 weeks before dandelion, 2 or 3 weeks or so, and I can see that right after dandelions start blooming, I start getting swarms. So in the month of May, my first swarm was on the 8th. I had another swarm on the 13th and another swarm on the 20th. So knowing that most of my swarms happen in May, I can start prepping in April to right before the dandelions start to bloom, or right around the time dandelions bloom is when I need to do my splits. By writing this down on the calendars, I can also see when my flows are. So I can see that in a lot of my calendars, I write down that I have a flow at the end of May and a big flow through June and at the end of June into July. So I can have my supers prepped and ready to go for those days and have them on before the big flow happens. Now, is this a perfect system? Probably not, but like it gives me a general idea of when I need to do my prep work for the honeybees and, you know, do my splits, have my supers prepped and ready to go, when to harvest, and when the dearths are. Going off of your flowering dates is going to be more accurate than if someone were to tell you that, oh, you need to have your supers on by this date, or you need to have your supers off by this date. Oh, there's a big flow during these dates here, and you need to have supers on. You need to be doing your splits here, because every year is going to be a little bit different. You're going to have hotter, drier years. You're going to have colder, wetter years. It all depends on the weather, on when things start to bloom and flower in your area. So I want to see you guys get a calendar this year and write down your bloom dates and your nectar flows and your swarms and your dearths. This is greatly going to improve your beekeeping and how well your bees do over the spring and summer months and even into the winter months. So I want you guys to get into the habit of doing this. It helped me a lot, and I think it will help you guys too.